This is the WK-496 consent to communicate with outside agencies form. On this form at the top, you're going to see the yellow box that is included on most of our forms with information on how to access the functions of the form or to provide reminders and tips for completion of the form. So in this case, this has what we call a lead-in selector at the top. So this is a reminder that in order for the form to be addressed or sent to whom you want to, if you want it to auto-populate that person's information from the demographics page, all you have to choose is choose who you want it to populate to. So I know this student that I have only has one contact listed on my demographics screen, so I know I just want one lead-in. I'm going to click save, and then you can see how it filled it in for me down here. So once you make your selection of which legal education decision maker you're addressing this form to, you want to go ahead and come down and make your selections on your release of information and your consent to communicate. So by checking one of these three boxes here, or more, it authorizes agency 1 to release to agency 2, agency 2 to release to agency 1, or agency 1 and 2 to share any information back and forth. Okay, so it does say that you're supposed to check just one of those. In a lot of cases, it's the communication back and forth. You may be doing a consent or a release for a doctor's office or a therapist or whatever the case is. Or maybe you're just asking for information for a report and you're not going to communicate back and forth. So it's simply a release of information. So once you make a selection as to which one of these is most appropriate, then you're going to come down here. It fills in and auto-populates the information for you, the student name, date of birth, address, and information from the demographics page. So the first part that you have to fill out is the reason for requesting information. And this is your documentation that you're going to fill out to tell that person that you're requesting to either receive information from or collaborate with, why it is that you want the information. So perhaps you're doing a reevaluation and you're asking for the most recent medical diagnoses or documentation. Or maybe you're looking at sharing information with counseling sessions with a therapist. Whatever the case is, you put your justification and reason here, and then you can move to the next section. This is the name of the legal education decision maker that you chose at the top, and that will complete that for you. The reason these do not auto-populate and fill completely out for you is that it may be different. You may be requesting information from an agency, a different agency each time. It's unique to the student. So if you have more than one agency, let's say you're wanting to communicate with St. Francis and you're also wanting to communicate with a therapist, then you would need a different form for each one of those. And in some cases, those agencies require you to use their specific form. However, this is a form you can use for your agency in that situation where you're making that request. You simply type out the name. Let's say Arrowhead West, right? And in this case, the agency is the name Arrowhead West, and the name is the actual name of the person. Now, one thing that I have learned through experience is if you get very specific and you say that the name is Amber Latta, then you've limited who can speak to agency 2 or that person requesting the information because you are giving consent for Amber Latta from Arrowhead to communicate and not anyone else. So one of the suggestions that I do offer to people is that I would say staff at Arrowhead West, provide the address, city, state, and zip, phone and fax, and of course, agency 2. This is probably going to be your agency, right? It might be only SPED staff. It doesn't matter, agency 1 or 2, whichever you put yourself in. It depends on what you mark up here. Okay. But if you're going back and forth, then you can just simply put either one of them. All right. So you would put your information here. Okay. We're just putting in some information with copy and paste. And then this statement says that I certify I am the legal education decision maker. Or maybe it's the student who's turned 18 already with their own guardianship and rights. And I have the authority to sign the release, and I do hereby consent to the above release of records. So this form has built in the electronic signatures. It is okay if your agency does not use electronic signatures yet. You can ignore this part, because what you would do is you would save the form and then you would click display print like you always do. And then you're going to get a line. Those boxes are not going to show up. So even if you're not using electronic signatures, you can still use this form. It will just put a line there for you to have printed out and signed. If you are doing electronic signatures, even if, let's say, the parent or whomever is sitting right next to you, you could pass your computer over, an iPad, a phone, anything with the ability that has like a trackpad where you can sign. And they can sign it right there in front of you, or you can send it via the parent portal if that's what you're also using. So let's let's say here I'm going to put my signature, and people will vary on their ability to use this. I'm not very great at it, but neither is anybody, right? I can put my signature, I click save, and when I click save, that's very important because it will date and timestamp when I finish that signature page. Now you can see I forgot the date. When I do it this way, it doesn't matter because it's automatically there. But I could also type in the date if I wanted to do that. Now let's say I'm passing it over for the next person to sign. Let's say there's, two, or let's say, well, this one right here, you can have the parents, both of them sign in one box if you want to. This one specifically says the signature of the student if they're 18 years or older. So either way, that it's going to be the legal education decision maker. But I just want to demo for you here. If I click save and I have another signature, it gives you an example of the real time, because I signed this one at 2:55 and this one was signed at 2:56. Okay, so those are going to date and timestamp when they are signed. Again, if you don't want to use electronic signatures, you do not have to. Just simply leave those blank. And when you click display to print, it will give you a line and it can be printed just like any other form has been in the past. So that's the WK-496 consent to communicate with an agency. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out via email. You can email Amber or you can email Brian at webkids.org. Thank you.